Hello friends, this is Bhushan Mulmule, and in this presentation I am going to introduce with ADU.NET technologies. Uh, Prerequisite of this session are as follows. You should at least have working knowledge of C#. You should able to use Windows forms and controls. If you have basic knowledge of databases, then it will be added advantage. This presentation is specially designed for beginners, and if you are intermediate users, if you know basic things of ADU.NET, then you can directly refer level 2 video. In this session, we are going to cover following things. First, we'll start with evaluation of ADU.NET. Then we'll see what exactly ADU.NET is, and we'll have a look on ADU.NET architecture. Then we'll try to understand core objects of ADU.NET providers, and then we will design one database application where we'll try to explore these objects, and we'll try to use various methods and properties of connection command data reader objects. So let us start with database programming. Is not very new thing. It is there from last 40 years, say. But in previous days, every database come with its own native drivers, means with its own library, with its own DLLs, which application developer have to use to write database application. Means if you want to write one database application, and if you want to store data from your application to database, then you have to learn DLLs released by that particular database vendor in which you want to store your data. So it's obviously time consuming. If you want to change database, then you have to learn DLLs, library functions provided by some other database. So there is no standard interface. Every time you'll use different database, you have to use different library files, different DLLs, different functions. Means if you have written code for one database, and if you want to upgrade to other database, then you have to make changes in your code according to DLL functions provided by other database. So to come up with this problem, Microsoft have released ODBC with standard interface. Means now ODBC will provide you with one standard interface. The functions for different database will be same. Internal implementation will be obviously different, but the name of functions that you are going to call in your code will be same. So if you will change database, then the function that the internal implementation of the function that ODBC will use will definitely change, but the name will remain same. So you need not to change your code. But ODBC was not object oriented. So Microsoft have released DAO and then RDO. DAO to access local databases and RDO to access remote databases like SQL Server or Oracle. DO and RDO was object-oriented way to access databases. But then requirement changes. Now people want to access not only tabular databases but Excel files, comma separated values. They want one standard way to access all these things. So Microsoft have released ADO in 1996, which was very mature technology and very successful technology, which is standard interface, which provides standard interface to access different data sources. Now I am not saying database, but data sources, as we can access data from various sources using ADO. Then in 2002, Microsoft released its first version of Microsoft.NET. Now as architecture changed, now we are moving from COM components to managed components, COM components to .NET components. So obviously we'll need some approach, some library itself inside .NET, some managed library in .NET to access databases. Now we can't rely on ADO because ADO is designed specially for COM components. So with .NET, Microsoft released managed data provider library known as ADO.NET. So ADO.NET, basically we can define ADO.NET as managed providers to access variety of data sources. It's a rich set of classes, interfaces, structures and enumerated types that manage data access from different types of data stores. I am saying different types of data stores, means again it is not limited to relational databases only. Following are some features of ADO.NET. Let us have a look on it. A robust disconnected model, integrated XML support, data from varied data sources, familiarity to ADO programming model, enhanced performance. So using ADO.NET we can access XML files, and it supports one new model known as disconnected model, which was not there in ADO, that will have a separate session to understand what exactly disconnected model is. In this session, let us concentrate on connected model. Let us have a look on ADO.NET architecture. Here you can see that this is database, and ADO.NET comes with some .NET data provider. .NET data provider have some important classes like connection class, command class, data reader class and data adapter class, which directly communicate with databases. Connection class obviously to connect to that particular database, command class to execute some command on databases, data reader class to read data from databases, and data adapter class we use in case of disconnected architecture. Data adapter class are designed in such way that they will pick data from databases and will put it in data set. So data set is known as in-memory representation of data. Again, don't worry about data sets and data adapter here. We will see it in disconnected session. So let us continue with these three things: connection, command, and data reader. Let us try to understand these three first. So as we have seen that there are some classes in .NET Data Provider which we can use to access database. But the problem here is, if you want to access different databases, obviously you'll need different classes. Means if you have one class, connection class, specially written for to get connected with SQL database, it will not able to connect with Oracle database, as every database is implemented differently. So edu.net comes with 4 .NET data providers: SQL data provider, OLEDB data provider, Oracle data provider, and ODBC data provider. What does it mean? It means that if this is SQL data provider, then the name of class will be SQL connection class, which is specially written to access data from SQL database. SQL command class, which is specially written to execute commands on SQL database. Same way, if this is Oracle data provider, then inside Oracle data provider there will be Oracle connection class, which is specially written to connect with Oracle database. Oracle command, which is specially written to execute commands on Oracle database. So this way edu.net comes with 4 data providers. Every data provider have its own connection classes, its own command classes, their own data reader classes, their own data adapter classes. But in this figure you can see that there is another component of edu.net, that is dataset, which is independent of databases. Means there are 4 copies of connection class, there are 4 copies of command class, but dataset is only one, as it is independent of databases. So data adapters are designed such a way that if you want to access data from database, SQL database, then SQL data adapter will fetch data from SQL database and put it in dataset in XML format. Same way, if you want to access from Oracle database, Oracle data adapter will fetch data from Oracle database and will put it in dataset in XML format again. So whatever database is, dataset will hold that data in XML format. That's why it is database independent. So these are 2 main components of edu.net. One is .NET data provider and dataset. What .NET data provider contains? Connection class, command class, data reader class, and data adapter class. There are some more classes, but these are important classes. And there are 4 .NET data providers available over there. So with this little concepts, let us move. So to build our first database application, we should at least know what connection object is, what command object is, and what data reader object is. So let us have a look on these 3 objects. So connection object established connections to specific data source. The base class for all connection objects is DB connection class. Now what does it mean? As we have discussed earlier, that there are 4 providers available. So in each provider there is connection class. Here there is SQL connection class, OLEDB connection class, Oracle connection class, ODBC connection class. Obviously they share some common functionality. That's why they all are derived from one base class, that is DB connection class. And same way they implement IDB connection interface, so that the interface will be same. Means if you will learn SQL connection class, you need not to learn these 3 connection classes. The methods will be same. The name of methods, the way of interacting with that class will be same. Internal implementation will be different, but in code, here you want to open the connection, there is connection.open method. Same way here also there will be connection.open. There will be no method like open connection or some other name. So this is the advantage of this model. And connection object requires connection string. Connection string is string with all the details of where database resides, means the name of server, then name of database, then if you have used any credentials like login ID, passwords, all the details are in that connection strings, which we have to provide to connection object. Then command object. Command object executes command against a data source. Now whenever I want to save something in database, I'll use insert command. Whenever I want to extract some records from database, I will use select command. When I want to update existing record, then I will use update command or SQL queries. So to execute these SQL queries, you'll need one object, that is command object. It supports parameters and transactions. What exactly it will look in level 2 videos. Then the base class for all command object is DB command class, and it requires SQL query and connection object. So command object, if you want to execute particular command, then it will need SQL query which contains what exactly we want to execute, and connection object which contains information on what particular database we want to execute. So these two things, without these 2 things command object can't work. Okay, and last thing here is data reader object, which we'll use to read data from database. Here you can see that it reads data in forward only, read only stream. Means you can't, if you are reading record 1, then 2, 3, then you want to go back to record 2, you can't do that. If you want to do that, then you have to start with record 1 again, then come to record 2. So you can't go back. That's why it's forward only, and we don't use it to update our database. We use data reader object to read only. We can't use it to update our databases. That's why it's read only. The base class for all data reader object is DB data reader class, and again data reader object will execute or work with command object. Command object will return resultant to data reader object. So Let us try to implement all these concepts in our demonstration so that we'll get all these things easily. Okay, I will suggest you to do this demo program with me. Follow the steps, pause the video wherever you want, and then only you will get concept easily. Okay, fine. So